How quitting investment banking and traveling has been so far. I'll do multiple videos on each country and topics covered for things that I've done within each, like food, for example, or the people slash culture, or the environment, how it looks, how it feels, etc. But I'll start first with the flight going from New York to Mongolia. I read the book Straight to Hell that I mentioned in my last video by John Lefevre, if that's how his name is pronounced. He was a debt syndicator at Citibank, most of his career in Hong Kong. And that was a book where I've actually worked in Hong Kong myself as a proprietary trader at a bank, actually. So I had a lot of similar experiences to him, like staying in the same hotel, going to the same pools. He mentions a lot of the his coworkers talking with like Filipino maids who I dated one and him hitting on someone who worked at Disney there, which is like huge. And I also dated a girl who worked as a first a ballet dancer in New York, but then became a dancer at Disney in Hong Kong too. So very similar experiences, but he's just a terrible person, the author. Just absolutely hard human being, along with a lot of his coworkers. That's what you get in the Wolf of Wall Street-esque environment. There's some people that are like that. So yeah, I'd already read about half the book and I finished it on the flight. And then when I got to Mongolia, I wanted to be productive this whole trip doing stuff. But when I got there, the first thing my friend said to me was like, "Oh, you have to get a Mongolian chick while you're here, or it's just sad." So I was like, okay. To peer pressure, prove it to my friends. I basically first day I just downloaded dating apps and like five or six of them and spent like 2, 3 hours swiping. Next morning I had so many like matches and messages. I spent like another 3 hours messaging, swiping again, setting up dates, etc. And I arrived on Monday, and by Wednesday I had basically achieved my goal, you could say. But then I had already had all these connections I started building, and I basically just was chasing woman the whole time, as a man is. Sometimes we're tempted, we have temptations, and once I got a taste and was on that sort of grind, I just spent a little too much time doing that. I only interviewed for positions based on things headhunters have sent me. Almost no applications or networking, and it's still what I've been doing throughout the whole time through China, Philippines, and Thailand too. The headhunters send across enough that keeps me busy, and for workouts, I just did at home ab workouts. I did pull-ups like once. I did one run, and then push-ups a few different days. But I was only there for about 12 days anyway, so it's nothing crazy. Next, China, I hit the gym like every day and was getting Korean barbecue because I was near the Koreatown there where I was staying with my friend. He had a gym membership, so I got one too. And we had protein shakes. I put on maybe 5, 10 pounds in that month that I was there. Transparent. I wanted to getting a chick out of the way for the peer pressure for the first weekend and then just focus on my work. So I did that. I went on like a few dates first weekend and achieved my goal again, you could say. But then my friend had us visit Chongqing, which, another close friend of mine from university was there. And that city is known to have the most beautiful woman in the country. And my friends were telling me about things to do, places to be. So I got pulled back into chasing. And it distracted me from the gym a little bit during that week, but it's still not too much. During the time in China, I had a bunch of headhunter calls actually, and a decent amount of interviews, including firms that manage tens of billions of dollars or more, very large funds. And I spent a lot of time figuring out how to transfer money into China via crypto to avoid wire transfer fees. And it was all pointless. It was like such a waste of time. It's the amount that you pay in gas or the amount that you pay in the exchange rate that people are willing to give you because you're not a Chinese citizen and they're going to give you a big, large spread. It's just not worth it. But it was just a fun exercise. So just use Wise, TransferWise. It's just easier and it's like the same amount. I also looked at the AI in China, like live streaming there. But Amazon in America, you just have like reviews, maybe some videos. Sometimes, usually it's like uploaded by the seller. Sometimes they put on like a YouTube review, but in China they have live streaming for each product on like their version of Amazon called Taobao, and like over 90% of the live streaming is AI generated and it's like very realistic. So they're very advanced in AI. One of my friends there, he also got smart glasses and he gave them to me to try on. And I was sitting at a table with all Chinese people and it was translating in real time. So they would say stuff in conversation and then it would show up the English translation in front of my eyes. So it was very cool, but my friends, I was thinking about creating an AI content girl there, like to market, but I ended up not doing it because it was through a Chinese company. My friends were considering doing it with me, and they didn't really have time to work on it. And then if I was doing it, then they'd have to be translating everything. So it just didn't make a lot of sense. So I left China and I was like, okay, maybe do something on my own with that, but it doesn't make sense to use a Chinese company. It's just too complicated. Then in the Philippines, I spent time with a girl who I cared more about than any other. And before they start pulling some like 90-day fiance type shit, well, white colonizer-ish that people try and pull. We met when we were both working in Hong Kong, like not some chick chatting on Facebook or something, setting her location in a rich country. And I'm not some desperate guy that needs to travel to get woman or anything. I was an investment banker in New York City with less than 10% body fat. I've had as low as 7.5%, 9.3, 9.5. Those are the only times I've tested, and then every time it's been under 10. And I've literally brought women I picked up on the sidewalk directly back to my apartment in New York without going into any bar or establishment on multiple occasions. So I'm not saying that to brag or say I'm a stud. I'm not, definitely not. But I'm just saying, actually, all people I talk to say I'm way too hard on myself than when I candidly talk about when I rate myself with my friends. And I'm used to talking so little about females that my friends thought I was like asexual growing up in high school or in college on multiple occasions. So I just force myself to bring up things to validate so people just don't assume negatively. Yeah, and I just don't want you thinking it's one of those desperate anime lover basement dweller dudes being scammed into hot girl by another country that's using him for money. Yeah, that's just my insecurities showing that I don't want you guys thinking, oops. But yeah, because I had a woman there and didn't have to chase them, and I was really emotionally invested in one, I was actually able to work on my coding a decent amount. So I got back into it with SQL just to ease into coding because it's like one of the most simple languages. It's like barely even programming. And I just used Coursera from one of the courses I bought when I was at my company. Luckily, I still have the login info. And yeah, I also laid the foundation for my content creation with starting to type up like ideas, channel ideas, video ideas, etc. And then, of course, continue talking to headhunters and proceeding with interviews up for more deep with certain companies. I've done third round, fourth round, fifth round interviews, case studies with multiple firms, which is where waiting to hear back from now. And I was also able to vet the real estate market there to see what the cap rates are. Cap rate is essentially if you take it's net operating income for a real estate divided by the value of the property. So net operating income is generally your rental income, essentially. Yeah, I'll talk about that later, but you can get some really nice center of the city, of the capital of the country, like a condo that's in the nicest building with a rooftop pool on the 60th floor and the gym and all this for between 50 to 120K. So, especially if you use leverage, that's even like cheaper. It's like kind of crazy what you can get for a small amount of money. But it is a concrete jungle, and Philippines is less developed than other countries like Thailand, which I'll get into later. In terms of fitness, I really slacked because in Philippines, because there's no gyms there. So I had to run on the streets and I went for 5, 6, 7 runs, a few days for push-ups, pike push-ups. A few days I did abs, some full body like fat burning workouts for 15 to 20 minutes. Like one day I did legs. Couldn't really do biceps or back. I literally ran around the city trying to find places to do pull-ups, but there's like nowhere to do pull-ups. And even it's hard to run too. There's no sidewalk, so it's it's not easy. You have to really make an effort there. I tried to put myself under a chair and pull myself up from that, but even that, it's just like frustrating and not much workout for your back. So plan in Thailand was to record a bunch, do Muay Thai, do coding, and maybe if I have time to work on other stuff. So far, this is my first video, but it's like halfway through my stay here. Also got consumed with talking to a girl here, maybe a few, and seeing how that develops too. Yeah, I'm into more serious, introverted, spending a lot of time with one person. I have done Muay Thai here twice. I've done boxing once. Problem is like my foot keeps ripping open, so it's hard because you place a lot of weight on your foot. I haven't got to work on my coding yet. Maybe I'll do that today or tomorrow, but I've also worked on the case studies again for those interviews. Like some of it was in between, where one of them I finished up when I was in Philippines, and then the other I finished up while I was here, and then presented on the first one. And now I'm waiting to hear back from both. But yeah, that's the how things have been so far. I'll keep you guys updated as time goes along. But it's been good so far, enjoyable. Wanted to be more productive. I've been reading also. I finished How the World Works when I was in the Philippines. Book's not an easy read. And now I went back to a finance book called Lords of Finance, which I mentioned in my last video, is about central bankers during the Great Depression. It also is during World War One as well, and the economic boom of the 20s. So a lot of interesting nuggets of history there and understanding of how finance has evolved and financial history in general. So I find financial history some of the most, like, probably my favorite type of reading. Yeah, I'll give a full review once I'm finished that book. But yeah, stay tuned for more. Of course, if you want to stay tuned, you can hit the subscribe button. Got to say it. Mandatory. See you guys.